Hi everyone, this is Ash Irish, and today I'm going to present to you a glimpse of past 23 of the borrowing costs. So, bago ang lahat, let's first discuss what is qualifying asset. So, qualifying asset is an asset that necessarily takes a substantial period of time to get ready for the intended use or sale. So, siya yung asset na hindi pa ready at the very moment. Nagpe-prepare pa siya maging asset at yung kanyang preparation ay hindi ganun kadali. Matagal bago maging asset. Parang may process pa siya. Kaya qualifying, inaalam pa natin kung qualified ba. Parang qualifying exam sa school. So, hindi po siya talaga asset na ready na for intended use or sale. So, example nito ay, yan. So, manufacturing plant and power generation facility. So, yung dalawang yan kasi matagal siya i-create. Yung manufacturing plant, so malaki yan, sobrang laki at matagal yan bago magamit. Yung power generation facility, matagal mag-create ng kuryente, marami pang chuchu, keme-keme, bago yun matapos. So, most of this will take years to construct. Hindi lang itong dalawang to, meron pang ibang mga example dyan. So, the scenario will be yung asset hindi pa buo at ginagawa pa lang, kaya qualifying yun tawag natin. So, ito namang next is intangible asset and investment property. So, hindi lang kasi sa PTE yung borrowing cost, but rather present din ang qualifying asset sa ibang whether it is intangible asset or investment property. Pwede natin i-apply yung matutunan natin dito sa borrowing cost sa iba pang examples. So, saan napupunta yung mga hindi qualified? Nagsiship sila, charot. So, yung mga hindi qualifying assets ay i-exclude natin sa capitalization. So, may mga items na hindi kasama sa capitalization. So, ano yung mga yon? So, ito yun. A, assets measured at fair value such as biological assets. So, biological asset, ito yung mga assets na may buhay. Normally plant and animals. So, hindi sila kasali kasi they are measured at fair value. So, normally kasi itong mga may buhay na to, bago mo sila magamit, papalakihin mo pa sila katulad ng baboy. Hindi mo naman siya, syempre sa baboy, mas malaki, mas mataba, mas mabibenta mo siya. Ganun, pati din sa mga halaman. So, next is inventories, even if it takes a substantial period of time to get ready. So, inventory kasi normal na natin ginagawa yan. Normal siyang binibenta at repetitive na siya in nature. Therefore, huwag mo na siya i-apply. So, next, assets that are ready for intended use or sale when acquired. Hindi sila qualifying asset kasi ready na sila agad for use of sale. So, kung babalikan natin yung definition natin ng qualifying assets kanina, hindi siya pasok. Kasi, ang qualifying asset natin ay an asset that necessarily takes a substantial period of time to get ready for the intended use or sale. So, ito kasi, ready na siya agad. So, hindi na siya kasali. So, let's proceed now with the borrowing costs. So, borrowing costs are interest and other costs that an entity incurs in connection with the borrowing of funds. From the word itself, borrowing cost, meaning nangutang ka at ang pangutang mo ay merong cost. So, ano yun? So, malamang yun yung dahilan kung bakit nagpautang yung other party, yung nagpautang sa atin, may hinihingi silang kapalit or natural na yun yung interest, yung kapalit na hinihingi nila. It is understandable why interests are or would be necessary. Therefore, interest is not an expense, but rather capitalizable because that is necessary. Hindi ka makakapag-construct, for example, hindi ka makakapag-construct nang hindi ka mangungutang at collateral yung interest doon. I mean, kasama siya doon, kasama yung interest kapag nangutang ka. Kaya kinakapitalize siya kung qualifying asset, kung for qualifying asset. And then we have here the examples. Interest expense calculated using effective interest method. So, natural, ito yung pinakamagandang method. Always remember na hindi lahat ng interest ay na-expense. But rather, pwede siyang i-debit sa asset account kung yung asset ay qualifying. Next is finance charge with respect to finance lease. Finance lease, ibang usapan na siya. So, upahan, pero ang totoo, hindi ka naman nangungupa. Pero ang point kasi is still, there is a finance charge that is related sa utangan. Kaya nga tawag sa mga pinag-uutangan ay financing. Kaya, ganun din sa finance charge. Same nature sila. Next. When do we start capitalizing borrowing costs? So we have here the commencement of capitalization. So the capitalization of borrowing costs is part of the cost of a qualifying asset commences on the date when all of the following conditions are met. The entity incurs expenditures for the asset, incurs borrowing costs, and it undertakes activities that are necessary to prepare the assets for its intended use or sale. So, nag-start pa lang yung capitalization pag lahat ng conditions nito ay nangyari. So, kapag isa dyan, hindi pa nangyayari, hindi pa siya mag-start. So, okay, next, when do we suspend naman capitalization of a borrowing cost? So, suspension of capitalization of borrowing costs shall be suspended during extended periods of suspension of active development of a qualifying asset. Hindi mag-stop ka munang mag-capitalize ng borrowing costs muna temporarily during extended periods. Next, when do we stop naman? When do we stop capitalizing borrowing costs? So we have here the cessation of capitalization. An entity shall cease capitalizing borrowing costs when substantially all the activities necessary to prepare the qualifying assets for its intended use or sale are complete. So once natapos ka na lahat sa activities, kailangan wala ka na rin pinakapitalize na borrowing costs. Kasi tapos na at complete na. So let's proceed naman for the accounting for borrowing costs. We have here the specific borrowing and the general borrowing. So this is my favorite part. We have here the specific borrowing. So specific borrowing refers to funds borrowed specifically for the purpose of obtaining a qualifying asset. So nangutang ka talaga for a specific purpose. Specific borrowing, specific purpose of the construction na kailangan mo. Direct ang effect niya. Yun ay nangutang ka talaga para sa gagawin mong qualifying asset. Therefore, all of the borrowing costs will be capitalized. So, we have here the formula. Capitalizable borrowing costs on specific borrowings are computed as follows. Capitalizable borrowing costs is equals to actual borrowing costs less investment income. So, hindi na tayo mag-go deeper pa dyan. Dahil, syempre, keme-keme lang tayo dito. Theories lang tayo and glimpse lang yung pinapakita ko. So, next, the general borrowing. General borrowing. So, are those obtained for more than one purpose? For example, the acquisition or construction of a qualifying asset and for some other purposes. From the word itself, general, para sa lahat, example, ang isang entity ay maraming utang at hindi niya ina-identify yung specific purpose. So, parang sabi niya, basta may utang kami at depende na sa kanila kung anong pangangailangan nila, dun siya kumukuha ng pondo. So, in general, pangkalahatan. So, specific. So this is the formula for general borrowing. Capitalizable borrowing costs on general borrowings are computed as follows. Capitalizable borrowing cost is equals to average expenditure multiplied by the capitalization rate. So note that it must not exceed the actual borrowing cost. So yeah, that's the end of my presentation. Oops! Again, ang qualifying asset ay hindi lang para sa PPE, but rather din sa ibang assets. Lagi niyong unang hanapin sa question, if ever, if the asset is a qualifying asset. So, yun na yan. That's the end of my presentation, a glimpse of past 23 borrowing costs. I hope you learned something from me, and I hope to see you soon, and stay safe. Bye!